Hey guys, well, it's another Saturday morning, afternoon now. Out here working in the garage. So working on the Pocket Kit. I'm on the back section of the leaf spring where it attaches. Yeah, I got a couple things going through my head. I'll show you guys my measurements and what I'm doing here. I'm using a bunch of different stuff. I've got the links on down below. So if you look at the description down below, I have the links not only to other YouTube channels that are awesome, you guys should check out, however, but there's also the links for these directions if you are doing the Pocket Kit. So the video right after this that you'll probably see is the difference between the stock leaf springs in unsprung weight and the RideTech composite leaf springs, which are amazing. But let's go back to the measurements here, and then, yeah, we'll check it out. So here we go. All right, so these are the Danchuk instructions I have here with the pictures I blew up. These are from Woody's Hot Rodz, and this is from, I believe they're the original company that created the Pocket Kits, and that's Williams Classic Chassis Works. So I got their instructions from Woody's. All I was able to find was this diagram, which actually has helped. And Danchuk is the one that is the most descriptive, goes through everything step by step, and yeah, gets everything figured out. So from what I've gathered, based on everything that I've seen here, let me see here. All right, so put on my glasses so I can read this to you guys. Okay, so what you need to do, first off, jump back here, is reinsert the leaf springs, which I've done from the 1/4 inch hole, and then you're going to go back 57 inches. Okay, so what I did was I put in my little all thread again. I marred up the threads pretty bad in it, so I had to cut it all up. So, but it's being used again, which is wonderful. So, sorry guys, let me take measurements my other hand here. Okay, here we go. I'm going to go back 57 inches. So here we go. I attach it to my spot right there. I'm going to come back 57 inches. Here we go. 57 inches is going to line up with, move this guy forward a little bit. There we go. And you can see the yellow mark that I have there on the frame that I marked for 57 inches. So that is 57 inches back. Right there. However, when I had my leaf springs in, and this is my kind of quandary, and I brought the leaf springs up, this silver line right here is where the center of the eye bolt for the leaf spring attaches. It comes right up to that mark right there. So I've got a 1 1/4 inch difference. It says 1 inch, but I just measured again on both sides. It's 1 1/4 from side to side here. So that's kind of interesting. So I'll come back to that in a minute. I think I'm going to go with the 57 because that's what all the directions seem to say. I'm also thinking that because there isn't any weight on the spring, that it might be sitting back here. But once the weight of the vehicle is on the spring, that it's going to, you know, push the spring, right? Because it's going to rotate on this axis like this. So I'm thinking that it will then line up with this, because I used the stock leaf spring and the RideTech leaf springs, and they both came to this mark on each side. So coming back over to the other side, here we go. Same thing. It's 1 1/4 difference between where the leaf spring, the eyelet on the leaf spring, centers right there, and the 57 mark, which is here. Now, the next thing they say is to, and going back to Woody's Hot Rodz, Woody says from the center of the hole, you're going to measure back 4 inches. And that is where the back of the pocket, the C-notch, is going to go. Okay? So, coming over here, I don't know, what did I do with that? Here it is. Okay, so measuring back 4 inches. So here's the 4 inches from the 57, back 4 inches to right there, to this one right here, this outer one. That is where this guy will line up. right like that. Okay, so from there, and then it goes. Now, these CPP C-notches, I mean, look at that. There's hardly any steel up at the top here. If I were to set this up, see if you guys can see that, right on so it lines up with the top of the frame rail, I've got probably maybe a half an inch. I'll have to measure that, but it's not a whole lot. I've got it actually on the other side. So here's the 4 inches. This drawing that I have here was when I had everything shifted over, but I mean, look at that. I didn't bring my measuring tape, but that's hardly any, that's just way too thin. Now, so that's one of my quandaries. So what I'm going to do, if you look at the directions here, and this is from Williams Classic Chassis Works, they say to leave 1.5 inches thickness. I think I'm going to go 1 inch, and I'll explain why. I want to make sure I have travel, right? Because I don't know how high the distance from the top of the eyelet here to the frame, the difference between this one and the Williams and the one from Woody's Hot Rod. And I'm sure that Danchuk has the same, has the same ones from Williams. So I'm gonna go down 1 inch instead of 1.5 inches. I'm gonna set it at 1 inch. But here's the difference, because this is a 2-piece chassis, and I mean, look at how thin. I know I've talked about it a lot, but look at how thin this metal is for the chassis. It just really isn't that thick. And for the lateral movement and the stress that's going to be put on this bracket, and I like that CPP brings the sides of this out to give it the lateral bracing. However, I just don't like that being welded. This is really thick steel welded on really thin steel, and then, lateral pressures going back and forth. I have the Hellwig anti-sway or sway bar in the back, which should stop a lot of that. However, there's stress that's going to be put on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this steel, I have some plate steel here, and it's thicker. I don't have the exact measurement. I'll have to find that out for you guys. But I'm going to cut this into a strip. I'm going to cut, because it is 2-piece, I'm going to cut the top piece right here back, and I'm going to lay this plate steel down. And so the plate steel is going to go down like that. Now remember, this is the top of the frame that the top eyelet will be on. Where the C-notch is going to be cut out, it's going to be on the bottom below this. So I'll be putting this guy on to reinforce, and I probably might even go this far so that I'm covering a lot of distance. So that should cover a lot of it. You guys can see there. That's pretty good coverage here. I'll bring it over to the other side so you guys can see an accurate of what's going on here. So if I take, it's something like this that we'll be looking at here. So here's my 4-inch mark right there. I'm going to go just a little past the 4-inch mark, and so that's going to take me, that's going to give me a lot of support up at the top. Plus I won't have to grind part of the bracket down. So let me, hold on, I'm going to set the phone down just for a sec. All right, guys, we're back. So that's what it'll look like. So now I won't have to grind, because of the 2-piece and it not being level, I won't have to grind one of these sides here of the top mount down. So it'll be welded flat onto the steel. And obviously I'll grind it down, make it look nice and everything. But this top piece, this top part of the frame here, so what I'm meaning is there's 2 pieces overlap. This top section right here, I'm going to cut and just make a little cut along here, and then lay the other piece down over it, and that'll give it rigidity on the top of it. Then I'm going to come down 1 inch, not 1.5 inches. I'll come down 1 inch, and that's where I'm going to put the pocket in. I'm also going to put a couple little pieces of supporter steel on the back side when I have it flipped over. Once this piece is on, once this plate's on, down flat, and I've cut out the C-notch, I'm going to put a couple little piece of 1 inch in length crossbars in here laying flat like this, probably 2 of them, to support it. So I'm gonna, even though it's gonna be 1 inch thick, it's gonna be strong. I'm gonna make sure that this is darn strong. I might even weld an additional, once I've got the frame flipped over, I might even take a piece of this plate steel and reinforce the side of this as well, so that this is gonna be strong, really, really strong. And then one of my students, for his project, fabrication project, is building, I know a lot of people call them shock towers. RideTech, with their system, encourage you to mount it mount the rear shocks to the factory locations. However, they have plates that go in that separate the pressure of the shock as the shock's coming up. Instead of just pushing on that one little area, they're spreading it out. And at least in the videos I've seen, they explain that you need that shock travel. So instead of putting in the shock towers where it limits the shock travel, the shock absorber travel, you have the full length and it'll go up to the trunk. So I'll have the bracing here, and it's going to be much like the way my student's building it. I'm going to use tube, and it'll be bolt-in if someone wanted to build it bolt-in, but I'm going to end up welding it in, but we're making it so it's modular. If someone wanted to get one, it's modular. But it'll have the H in it, like Roadster Shop and Art Morrison, and then it'll have a little provision for the rear differential. So there'll be a lot of strength going side to side here. This guy's going to be reinforced. Thought I did a pretty good job reinforcing the pockets. I'm going to put in some steel across the top here. I had to cut this little bit out on this side. This was the better one. You just have to cut a little bit. Because it's a 2-piece frame, I had to provision this so that I could get the pocket in flat. So I'll then cut a little piece. I'll cut a piece out here, and then put some plate steel down to cross over this here. So I think it's going to be pretty stout when I'm done with it. Just wanted to give you guys an understanding of my thought process. There's a little good weld that I put down the other day on this guy, but I undercut it right in here. This part looks a little bit better, but it's undercut there. I got into the top pretty good up here. I know you professional welders are probably looking at it going, oh, it's horrible, but I don't know, for me, I think that was pretty good. Did okay. Alrighty, so that's about it. I'm going to start doing some more measurements, make sure everything is dialed in, and then I'm going to do some cutting for the top and put the top of the plate on this afternoon. This weekend, that's about all I plan on doing, is getting the plate put on the top, reinforce the top, and then I might tack in the top eyelets here, these top braces, get those tacked in, and then I think I'll be pretty happy. And then next weekend I can start looking into flipping the frame back over again, and then working on the C-notch. But the directions say to do it this way. All the directions I've read say once you get the pocket in, put the leaf springs in. Once the leaf springs are back in, then you measure the top. Once you get the top set up and it's sitting at 57 inches and it matches up, then go from there. So also there is one other thing I want to show you guys, and this is pretty cool. The Williams instructions say to take from the top of the rear, I don't know what you want to call that, not angle iron, but you know, it's a C, right, that they have there. So from the top of that to the center should be 11 inches. Well, that 11-inch mark from here, which is the top of that C, right, looking at it here, this is the C, bottom, top comes out a little bit. The 11 inches from here to here lines up with 57, and on this side, climb down on the ground, the 11 inch, you can see 11 inch right here, goes from there all the way down to here. So that is 11 inches to the 57 mark. So from the end of the frame here all the way to here is 11 inches, 57 inches from this mark to the all thread that I have coming out of the 1 1/4 inch hole. Done all the measurement I can. The only thing that's odd is where they say to use this guy as the template. Well, using this guy as a template, like I said, it's just gives me, you know, I don't know. Let's measure it just for kicks and giggles. Let's see what we're looking at here. So from the top, let's go like this here. Half inch. It's a half inch. So if I go like that, you guys can see from the top right there to there, it's a half inch. So that's not too cool. So yeah, here I'll go off the 2 there. There we go. So if you look, that's 1/2 inch. That is not, that's not thick enough, I don't think, for everything that's going to happen here. So I think adding an extra half inch, so make it, you know, 1 inch, taking it down from the 4 to the 3, there's going to make a big difference. So that's what I'll do. And then from this guy, I'll just have to grind it down. Also, one other thing I want to show you guys that I did here. We have a press, and I know I wouldn't be able to do this if we didn't have what we have at the school, which I'm grateful for. But we were able to ask my student, I didn't tell him the exact angle, but you can see this is factory from CPP, the angle. This would be the front angle of the insert of the C-notch. See how I bent it down this way? And if you go to Montana Garage, watch his. I had a conversation with him, which was pretty cool. Really, really nice person. He and I were talking about the reverse eyes. So if you aren't aware of that, this is what a reverse eye is. So this is the back of the CPP leaf spring. See, the eye is bent up like this. Okay, this is the factory leaf spring. See, the eye is bent down.